Welcome back, nerds. Fino here with a guide for the Waxing Moon Chronicles, or as it's otherwise known, the Fate Samurai Remnant collab. This event has your favorites from that game, like Not Aria, Rider without her sick armor. Why am I playing this again? Well, the good news is that you get a freebie and a pretty big one at that. Miyamoto Iori is the welfare servant for this event, and he's a solid single-target Buster Saber. And if you like a specialized option, a good baseline Grand Saber once the Grand Servant duels come along. Given who we fight in that, I think you'll appreciate the coincidence. If you miss him now, you'll have to wait until May 2027 for him to enter the vacation pool. I'll also note that Iori has double experience gains during this event, handy for getting him up to speed. But last I checked, this event doesn't stop when he hits his natural level cap. So if you plan to grail him, especially for levels over 100, now's a good time to cash in your embers. You unlock him for completing the event main story, his NP levels and ascension items are mission rewards, and his servant coins are in the shop. As for progressing in the event itself, there's a lot of terms being thrown around on account of the collab theming, but you just need to keep the following flow in mind. If there's a main quest available, do that. If not, do any digressions or really anything that's not a free quest. The repeatable ones that you farm. Failing that, go into the mission screen and see if there's anything you haven't collected yet. After that, look at the requirements for the next main quest, look at the corresponding mission requirement, and complete it via free quests. When you have sufficient currency from doing those, buy copies of Dumplings Over the Moon. This is the event damage CE. Generally handy for that purpose, but especially if you're doing this event early into your account's progress, it's available as soon as you complete Fuyuki, it'll give you a fighting chance. And if you're having trouble farming the 90++ node, it'll make the damage checks easier. 4 of these are available in the event shop, with the 5th being tied to completing 70 missions. The command codes for this event are also mission rewards. Flower at the Apex of Heaven Crossing the Sky gives Envone Pierce and crit damage to its equipped card. Crimson Codex gives burn and NP gain, which is nice for either burn stackers or as a redundancy for servants wanting to utilize Honey Lake. Lastly, Companion During Adversity cleanses 1 offensive debuff and heals 100 health. If you're doing unkillable strats with someone like Barghest, you may find this tactically useful depending on fight gimmicks. There are a number of event bonuses for servants either present or tangentially related to Samurai Remnant characters. And Spartacus? I guess we'll have to see what that's all about. Notable among these are Yamato Takeru, Berserker Musashi, and Original Gilgamesh, all of whom are strong farmers. Musashi's even getting an NP upgrade during this event, a very consequential one. The 90++ free quest is a weird one. This pits you against what is, if my recollection is correct, an unprecedented 161 enemy formation culminating with a 1 million health Ritra. Now they really want you to use Takeru for this node because of the sheer number of demonic enemies, including Ritra herself, but in a sense this is kinda bait. You can easily do it with Dumplings Over the Moon, but you may be lulled into thinking you can double whammy her with Takeru's anti-divine and anti-demonic effects. Those work separately. Ritra is a divine spirit, but due to trait fuckery, divine spirits are not necessarily divinities. You can still make it work, but in my old attempts I found it wasn't as clear-cut as I'd like. A 6-slot clear of this is going to be obnoxious, but if you're willing to use that event damage CE, your options open up. Takeru works, but you may want to give our old friend Siegfried some consideration. He has massive anti-dragon damage, so he can dumpster Ritra. And because he's a Buster Servant, he can do both the 1 and 6 enemy waves without worrying about his refund. That said, you'll want both Siegfried's starting charge of pen skill and the event damage CE maxed out in order to meet the charge requirements. The real roadblock for this team is the Nuain Wave 2, which is why I recommend using Dumplings Over the Moon in the first place. By the way, unlocking this quest requires you to do a digression, and let me just say you'll want to level up your Iori before that one. Trust me. Lastly, let's talk about the challenge quest. This one is kind of a fucker, and it introduces one of the more ball-busting mechanics in the game's history: Red Guts. Iori gets one as soon as the fight starts, and the way it works is that if you break his bar, it refills. You can't disjoint it either, unlike with regular guts. You just aren't making headway against him on turn 1. Unless you damage him but not enough to break his bar, which will make your damage check easier on turn 3. I've gotten it to work, but never as part of a team that actually won. So buyer beware. I would strongly recommend not breaking it because specifically for this fight, your life gets absurdly more difficult if you do, requiring you to power through multiple million-plus health bars to close out the fight. The Red Guts expires at the end of turn 2, so your most productive course of action is to focus damage onto Takeru. My preferred strategy is to zero him out completely before dealing with Iori. This means the fight will take a while, but I found going fast to be very difficult. Another benefit of doing this is that it removes a mechanic where if Iori and Takeru have full NP bars at the same time, they'll taunt one of your servants and go to town. This resonance move is the single greatest obstacle to using the Immortal team here. This fight's got Murphy's Law EX going on, and extremely slow teams like that are at particular risk. Both Takeru and Iori will charge up themselves and their allies as they attack, but at first they'll use extra cards instead of their Noble Phantasms. This is because they need to accumulate those NP damage icons first. Once they hit 5, they consume them and use their NP. They gain 1 at the end of each turn and get a bulk payment when you break their bars, so prepare your defensive options for when you change phases. The class affinity icons, the purple diamonds, are used to summon allies representing the rogue servants from Samurai Remnant. Much like in Zamrem, they'll leave at the end of the turn, they use their Noble Phantasms. And they don't need to use stacks like the main duo. They can just fire that shit out as soon as they get it. But this also means you don't need to worry about attacking them for the most part. They'll eject themselves out of the fight once they shoot their goo. I was able to clear this quest using Chloe as my main attacker, so you should have a solid option even without access to premium archers. Again, focus Takeru down, and then work on Iori and you should have a solid game plan. If you can play grab-ass long enough, post-upgrade Summer Musashi will run these guys down. She does bonus damage against Saber's servants and also seals their NPs, which locks out one of their main advantages. But she obviously can't attack until Iori loses his red guts, or else you get the lunatic mode version of the fight. For my part, I had a great time using UDK Barghest. Her ability to switch between AoE and single target meant that I had a strong start going to town on Takeru before letting her AoE all 3 enemies down. This will require at least 2 skill rotations, but you do have the option of keeping Takeru alive in his final bar. This leaves an extra enemy on the field to improve Barghest's charge refund, especially if a rogue servant is also present. Then I went for a simultaneous kill, though I don't think that's strictly necessary. Challenge quest aside, this event looks a lot more complicated than it really is. You shouldn't have difficulty reaching the final stages of the main story. Good luck and thanks for watching, lads. I'll be rolling for Ushigozen on Sunday and she's one of my NP6 targets, so I expect this to go very, very poorly. Stop by if you want to see that go down. Twitch.tv/Finotaisen. I stream every weekend at 3 PM Pacific time. And this time around, I also have Cursed Halo on Friday and The World Ends With You on Saturday. See you there.